Now, the art of sales and the art of closing a deal, is it true that all of us are really in sales? That's what they say. You know, we spend our lives trying to convince others to support our ideas, whether it's to go out on a date with us or maybe get a pay rise from the boss. Sales skills are required. And are sales, that skill, is it getting harder in a low trust era? Also, there's lots of things drawing our attention from day to day, so it's harder to get a customer and talk about your product because there's so much noise. So joining us to talk about all that and more, the First Lady of Sales. She's in San Francisco on the line, the best-selling author of Every Job is a Sales Job and Sell Yourself. It's Dr. Cindy McGovern. Hi there, Cindy.
Hi, Pat. Nice to see you this evening.
Great to have you on the radio and also the video. I saw you nodding as I was saying that, so I did do some research, of course, about you and your books and took those little bits for the intro there. Low trust era, you know, no matter what you do in life, it is about sales. The noise that's out there now, it's harder to get people's attention. So I guess these are all the things that are top of mind for you and that you cover in your books and you talk to people from day to day.
Absolutely. And I think you nailed it where you're saying that it is a low trust era. And I think it's just that we are consuming so much right now. And I say this to my clients too, we're not just competing for business, we're competing for people's attention. And we're competing for attention in this low trust environment where everybody's skeptical. They think they're more informed. We have the internet, they've done their own research. And so it's like, how do you break through that friction, that static, to create a meaningful connection, to deepen trust so you can make the sale, whether it is convincing someone to go on a date with you or whether it's convincing them to
Yes.
buy your product. And it's much harder, but there is some skill and some science to it that people can utilize to get a little bit more of what they want at work and in life
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So you've said that it is getting harder and you've explained why. So the art of sales, it's changing and getting harder, or fundamentally is it the same thing? You know, I heard recently people saying, and I mean, this has been around for a long time, that marketing or branding is supposed to put the sales department sort of out of business because you create this desire and it sells itself. So in a way, is your role different now where you just create a desire and attract people to you because of this new environment?
It's very true. And I actually talk about how you want to be the flower, not the bee, right? The bee has to buzz around and find all the leads. But if you're the flower, the bees come to you. So there's a bit of marketing in that, but it's funny you mentioned the word branding because that's a lot of what I talk about in the book Sell Yourself. Talk about how to build a powerful personal brand so that other people know how to file you in their heads. They know how to advocate for you and they know who you're the person to go to. So I know that all of the listeners right now, you all have a friend group and they come to you for whatever it is that your skill set is the thing. You're the IT person. You're the person that throws the best parties. You're the person that knows all the good travel tips. So if you know all of those things, that's part of your brand. But when we think about making a sale, whether again, it's a personal sale, a life sale, if you will, or a business sale, what are you known for? And that actually deepens the trust. So it actually helps to cut through some of that static that's out there and to deepen the trust. No sale is ever going to happen without trust, right? We all know
Yes,
that.
yes, right.
But if you've got that brand, then it helps. So, for instance, talking about marketing departments, soda, like a soda company,
Yeah,
they're known for making soda. Let's say they stop that and start making jewelry. Okay,
yes.
completely different things. They're not known for that. So that creates distrust. But
Mm.
if they make soda and make another soda, or they start making a bottled water of some sort, it's adjacent. The trust is still there. It's like a little bit of transferable
Oh,
trust. So
gotcha.
if you've got a powerful personal brand,
Mm.
you can utilize that to help you make sales.
Right, right. So individuals should be thinking that too. What am I known for, or who am I? I guess it's knowing
Absolutely.
yourself, which is hard too. You know, it takes a long time to even. You know, many of us don't ever know ourselves. So okay, so what are you known for? And you use that as a leverage point. And am I right when you say that's right? Because you know you're right. If a soda brand goes into jewelry, well, that's not going to work. But if you're known for something and you're trusted, you can then do more of that type of thing. Is that right, Cindy? Yeah.
Absolutely. And you may be able to transfer that into something slightly different, soda to water. Maybe you actually go to an energy drink. Maybe you go to coffee. all beverages, right? There's a common thread there. But when you think about your own personal brand, and let's say that you're going to be an engineer and then all of a sudden you're going to go be a rock star, it kind of gives your audience whiplash and they're
Yeah,
going,
right, right.
wait a minute, where did this go from? But you've got to be able to have that story, that brand story around it. And that's a big part of sales that I think even seasoned salespeople, Pat, I think forget that. I think they
Mm,
rely heavily on the closing of the sale and they
mm.
forget the branding aspect is really where you start to build that trust.
And you're very good at that. You in your life and business, that branding. Um, so what do you keep top of mind? You have to know what you stand for and what you're about. Every piece of messaging, we're talking about advertising here now, is that have to be in line with that sort of stuff? I mean, I'm trying to do some more social media things now, and I tell you, it's test and learn, Cindy, and a lot of it is I just, I've got this agency, of course, or this business in the studio, which I know you can see through the screen there, and my background, as you know, is radio, as we're broadcasting now on the radio. So anyway, there's a bit of that skill there. But yeah, it's testing and learning, and what I forgot my question now. But putting things out there. Oh,
Yeah.
it's not on brand sometimes. Sometimes I just got to think, okay, just put it out there and get some momentum going. So yeah, things aren't perfect when it comes to that, but you need to remember your brand and who you are.
And that's it. It all comes back to kind of your core values and who you want to be known as in the world. And there's something that I do with people that I coach where I'll ask them, I'll say, well, what are the words you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? What really, if you think it through and you boil it to 5 words, let's say, what are the words that you want to be known as? And then you think about how you communicate that to the world. And so, to part of your point is, does it all have to be on brand? Yeah, it does. Because if you think about it like this, go back to that soda company. You find a bottle that's destroyed. You find a box of those sodas that it isn't on brand. It changes your perception and your trust in that moment. You're not going to buy that bottle of soda or that can of soda because you don't trust that the contents are okay, simply because one piece of the brand is off.
Mm.
And it could change everything if you're not careful. So it's really reinforcing that. And I also think a lot of people don't realize we're constantly selling ourselves. That's why I named the second book Sell Yourself, because I
Yeah,
think we
yeah,
sell ourselves short, quite frankly.
yes.
But we're selling ourselves in everything we do and everything we don't do. The way you answer a text, how quickly you answer a text or not. That's a sales conversation. We just don't think of it like that. And it goes
Yes.
directly to reinforcing your brand.
Mm. Um, the one thing I've noticed that annoys me if it's in the sales world, is this a thing for you? As you say, your brand. People go to meetings. There's we can talk about that. Great salespeople and people who aren't so great, but go to meetings and there's a lot of promises made. Yes, yes, I could do that. I can do this, and they don't follow up on that promise. Even little things like when I get back, I'll send you an email, or okay, yeah, that little thing, and then they just sort of walk out and forget it. So the customer remembers that when you make promises and, like you say, answering texts and doing those sorts of things. That represents who you are. I mean, it's hard work, I'm not saying I'm perfect. Sometimes you're tired or you forget things, but I guess you have to consciously think, okay, I'm closing a deal here, or I'm creating a brand, and I need to stay on that line and remember who I am and my integrity, really.
It is, and it's funny because I teach a 5-step sales process in the books and in my consulting, and the fifth step is follow up.
Right, right.
And it's the most skipped step other than asking for the business, right? Like we just sort of assume that people know why we're there, so we don't ask, and then you don't follow up. But that follow up is actually the part that most people either forget or kind of screw up. They do it, but they kind of do it obligatory. It's
Yeah.
just like, okay, I'm sending you the email because I told you I'd send it, or here's all the
Right.
material I said I was going to send you, Pat. If you took 30 seconds and just said, Pat, it was such great meeting with you today, and I really love talking about our dogs, or whatever it is, just a moment of humanity,
Yeah, yeah,
it changes everything.
yes.
And we have to remember we're being sold to all day. It's the human connection that makes the difference. And that's part of
Right.
your personal brand. That's part of that follow up needs to be human.
Yes.
We're not bots selling to bots.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's right. As soon as you said human connection, I thought about that robots and AI. And I noticed in our conversation, it took a long time for us to connect because time differences, you're a very busy person. There was always an energy there. That's right. You took the time to Yeah, just different, not different different to many, but an energy, a positive vibe in your messaging, you and your staff. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely, and I noticed that, and it makes me feel good, and I think, oh yes, I'm going to meet Cindy soon, and so you're obviously very skilled at this. So yeah, were you always that way, or did you have to work hard at it, or what's your journey to this point?
So I think in a way I was always that because I try to be kind. That's just sort of one of my superpowers, I think, is I just try to see the good in the moment and see the opportunity in the moment for the other person. How can I make their day a little bit better? You know, we
Yes,
get bombarded with emails. They're not fun to read, let's be honest. So if I can add a little humor or make you smile or make you feel positive, like,
yes.
yay. But it's funny because my journey started of the fact that I never wanted to be in sales. And I got put into a sales role and thought I was going to get fired. Like literally, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I can't do this. And about 6 months in, I realized I've been doing sales my whole life. I just didn't call it sales. And that changed everything for me, Pat. That moment, and I know the moment, I know exactly where I was. I know the light that was coming in through the
Wow.
window. I can tell you everything. It's kind of this really pivotal moment in my life where I
Yes.
went, why did I learn this? And so that's where my journey changed to go and help people. And I think that's kind of part of what I try to do in everything in all of my communication is remind people this is an interaction, this is a sales conversation, and I want you to have a positive experience.
Many people, they don't, you sort of avoid salespeople. You go to the shop and think, oh, I'm just looking, don't talk to me, those sorts of things. But it really is, as you say, I've worked in, media organisations closely with sales teams. It is a noble profession. The good ones are helping people. You're offering
They are.
this platform to promote them and their business, and you grow with them. And also you got to be self-reliant, and you go out there and you have to win the business, and it's a roller coaster ride of emotions. It's really toughens you up or introduces another side to life. So there is something special about the art of selling and what it does to you. When we talk about politicians on this program, and in Australia, I'm sure the same thing happens in the States, career politicians that haven't been out there to take on the real world and go through all that. And I wonder how connected they are to the real world. I think sales does toughen you up and connects you to the real world. Otherwise, you can't survive.
Well, and people forget that, it's kind of like the Hall of Fame for sports. Your stats are probably not the best, but they're the best because you failed the most. And so, you only get
Right.
there because you had so many free throws that didn't make it, or you had so many,
Yes, right.
chances at the football game and you didn't make it into the goal. So it's like all these things that you think about. And it's like, you had to fail that many more times to get those high scores. And that's really what makes you a bit resilient. But
Right.
I think you learn so much from the no's. I think you learn so much from the roadblocks, and it helps you. And if you're a good salesperson, in my opinion, you're naturally curious. So what you're actually doing is trying to look at that scenario and go, okay, why didn't that work? Why did I hit a wall here? And how can I make it better next time? And what can I learn from this to, okay, well, I can take this and I can use it the next time. And it's so funny. I was talking to a gentleman on a podcast when my first book came out, who's also an author, and he said, wouldn't it be cool if we could do our book tours before we write the books, because we learn so much
Yeah,
about talking
yeah.
about them to
Yes,
different
yes.
audiences? And I said, it's totally like sales. The more closed doors you get, the better you know your product.
Yes, yes. Well, I've heard that's right. Some people, they say, well, it takes 20 no's before I get a yes. So with every no, do you do this as well? I've heard this, they high five. Oh, I'm getting closer to a yes.
Yeah.
I guess you need to, it's such a tough job at times. You need to find ways to stay motivated. On Australia Overnight, and also our video here, we're talking to Dr. Cindy McGovern, First Lady of Sales, speaker and author. She's on the line from San Francisco. So, you talk about sort of helping people and those sorts of things. Listening too, that's the one thing that I think you'll go into a meeting and there'll be a salesperson and making assumptions. They start sort of talking their pitch. They've done it so many times, so they're assuming the person on the other end. You said something there and made me think of that. I think listening, because they'll tell you what they want. Is it so on that too? It's problem solution. If you listen hard enough, they'll start telling you what their problem is, and then if you can offer the solution, there you go. It's a match.
Totally. The old movie Glengarry Glen Ross, everybody says ABC always be closing. And I have a different ABC. I think it's always be curious.
Right.
Because I think if you are curious enough in the conversation and curious enough in the moment to find a solution, and maybe you're not it. And that's the way I
Mm.
sell. If I'm not the solution for you and I know who it is or what it is, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And I send business to our competitors when they're a better fit than we
Yeah.
are. I'm okay with that
Yeah.
because I mean, there's 7 billion people on the planet. We're not going to run out
Yeah.
of prospects, right? So,
Yes. Yep. Yep.
but always being curious. If you're truly curious, you also stay very present, which makes you a better listener. And in this distracted world, when we're, thinking about our phone and is it buzzing in your pocket or whatever, it's really that moment that you connect with the other person and they know you're listening, they know that you're paying attention, and more importantly, they know you care.
Mm. Mm.
And that's when trust deepens, and that's when the sale actually happens. They feel vulnerable enough to tell you what their challenges are. They'll
Mm.
tell you the problem. They'll let you share the solution. That's when the sale occurs.
For people, we're a sort of a 55 plus radio station. Maybe listeners have been in sales in the past. We've already made the point that we're all really selling, but maybe for their children or grandchildren, if you're thinking about getting into sales, it can be tough. It can be quite brutal. Am I right there? It's a cutthroat sort of world sometimes. You get a client and somebody wants it and all that sort of stuff. Advice for people who are thinking about getting into it, and is there a certain personality type that's better than others?
That's a great question. And I think the advice that I would give to the next generation is I used to be a college professor and students would ask, what should I be when I grow up? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that if you are a naturally curious person and you like helping others, that drives you in sales because the mission is greater than the fear, right? You're not going to, and don't come from that place of scarcity. We can smell the desperation breath on
Mm,
salespeople,
mm,
when you have
yes.
that. But if you are really that person that wants to help other people, you like finding solutions to problems and you're curious, I think that makes a great salesperson. And people will often say, well, they have to be great public speakers and they have to be outgoing and this and that.
Mm, mm.
I actually
I
find
don't
that
think so.
introverts are some of the best
Yeah,
salespeople because they're
yeah.
better listeners.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And I've sort of dabbled a bit, and I've got this world now. But I don't know if I was just thinking this, but sometimes if you're too, because I'm talking to younger marketing people and these sorts of things, and I'd come in there and maybe give advice, and there's 52-year-old Pat or whatever I am, 51-year-old Pat, giving advice. So you say introverts. Sometimes I walked away and thought maybe I was a bit too full on and too preachy and a bit, and it made them feel uncomfortable. They're not going to buy from you then. This guy's going to come in and sort of, so maybe it's good to be an introvert, or sometimes you change your personality. I have to back off a bit. So you read the room. I guess there's an energy you need to read as a performer too. You read the energy from the audience. So is there a bit of that going on?
100%. And it's funny because when I was a kid, I fit in with kind of all the groups. Like I wasn't in one group in high school or whatever. And everybody says, oh, you were part of this group or that group. And it was like, I could find something with all of them, which made me feel like there was something wrong with me because I didn't.
Right.
But that's actually a skill at the end of the day because I can sit with the engineers and have something in common. I can sit with the marketers and have something in common. So I think that's a good thing to be able to read the room and be able to say, yeah, I'm going to change my energy. I'm going to change how my approach is. And I think, watch what people say and watch what people do. And they're going to tell you exactly what they're needing. If they're really leaned back and quite slow in their pace of speech, mirror that. I mean, there's all kinds of interpersonal communication skill sets out there that we can all learn
Yes,
and
yes.
test, but it's more about just read what the room is looking for and their expectation. And most of the time, even if they know it's going to be a quote sales pitch, nobody wants to be sold, but everybody likes to buy.
Yeah.
So make it a conversation that empowers them to have a choice to buy.
That makes me think of emotional intelligence. So I guess you need to do that. And also the not everyone's ready to buy. So is that a bit of a challenge too? They talk about that consumer journey. There's a bunch of people that are really looking for your product. Another little bunch of people are sort of maybe they're thinking about it. Is that how it goes? And then there's others that are completely not thinking about it. Yeah, can you graduate those who are not thinking about it? How do you approach that? I guess you have to be a bit broader to talk to those that are sort of thinking about it and graduate them into the, oh, yes, I want it. So, yeah, you have to have knowledge of the science of it, or the technical stuff in the background as well. You need to understand the buyer's journey and all that sort of stuff as well to be a good salesperson.
You do, but I also think you have to recognize who's your customer and who's not.
Right.
And I'll often say I'm not for everyone, right? So
Mm.
you're gonna get on with me or you're not, and that's okay,
Right.
because I do think that there's other coaches, other consulting firms, other authors that are going to speak to you differently. So you find the ones that speak to you the best, and then the ones that don't, that's okay. And I think that's where salespeople kind of get themselves in trouble, is you try to put that square peg in the round hole,
Right.
right? That doesn't fit, and that actually reflects on your personal brand. People, that's when we get the pushy salesperson. Nobody wants to be that. So if you read the room and you figure out, this is my customer base, these are the ones that are going to buy from me. It's like a friend group. These are the ones I'm going to get on with, these are the
Right.
ones that I'm not.
Mm.
That's okay.
Yes, yes.
Walk away from the ones that are not a fit.
Okay. All right. Good. But what about the whole thing about there's 7 no's before a yes. So are you persistent with some people who you feel like they may not be your customer? I guess in your mind you think that, well, they are. They're in the market. Maybe they're not ready. They say that many salespeople, after one no, they just sort of walk away and think, oh, they've said no. And you should persist. I mean, there's also the thing about being annoying, I mean, there's all these cold calls now we just sort of hang up on. So, sorry, that's a bit of a bubble of a thought bubble there. But yeah, should you be persisting even with those who aren't quite ready to buy?
As long as they're part of that customer group that is a good fit, I'd say yes. And I think that there's a bit of stalking that goes with sales, right? Like, I've got
Yes.
stories of people that I chased for 7 years before it was a time. And I do think timing is appropriate for sales
Right.
too. Not everybody's going to be ready right this moment. And the need has to be there. They have to be uncomfortable enough to want to make a change, right? So
Ah, yeah,
so
okay.
there's a number of things that go into this. But you've already done the research to make sure that there's a good alliance there, that
Gotcha.
that's a good fit. And that's when you can sort of stalk them until they call the police.
The First Lady of Sales is with us, Dr. Cindy McGovern. So, what are you doing from day to day? You've got your books. You're talking to people about the art of sales. Is there a specialist area? Are you selling? I saw something recently on one of those, might have been Netflix, about selling real estate. Anyway, so I guess that's another thing too. The bigger, it's a longer cycle. You got to take them through the whole journey when you buy something big like that. So, are you specialising in a certain area, and what are you doing from day to day?
So I run a consulting company as well as an online academy. So we're doing a lot of work with B2B. So working with businesses to help them grow. And so a lot of professional services, insurance companies, but we've got manufacturing, we've got real estate,
Right,
law
right.
firms, all sorts of folks. But it's really about
Okay.
folks that are looking to continue to grow and scale and tap into the untapped resource of their people. And that's my day to day, is I turn a lot of non-salespeople into salespeople as my job. And my team does this, and we do training and development and coaching, but it's really about helping them to kind of, I call it tapping into your inner 5-year-old. Every 5-year-old is the best salesperson on the planet.
Yes,
So
yes,
we
right.
all know how to do this. We just got to get back to that.
Hmm.
So we go in and unleash the 5-year-olds.
I love it. I love it. So, Australian listeners can find you online. Is there sort of ways to access that training and that information through like a website or some way, on the
Absolutely.
internet?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Orangeleafconsulting.com and orangeleafacademy.com.
Okay, orangeleafconsulting.com and orangeleafacademy.com. Oh, good. Okay. I've got to think how I found you now. I think we come across each other on LinkedIn. So you're
We
on all the
did.
socials as well. Well, yeah, thank you. Have I missed anything that we want to pass on? I think we made the point that we're all in sales and we all need to know who we are and remember our personal brand. We all have bad days though, don't we, Cindy? So it's okay to have bad days?
It's okay to have bad days, but I always say that we're ourselves plus like 10%. And on the day that you can't be that, stay home. Take the day
Right.
off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So you sort of know that you're not really in the zone that day. So that's again to your personal brand. I'm going to go out there today and do damage because I'm just not up to it. So I'll just sort of take the day off and hit the ground running tomorrow type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody needs a little off time and everybody needs some rest.
Yes.
And especially when you're on all the time for your job or with your family or whatever. Think about it, even with your family, you need some minutes away from them as much as you love them. Same thing. So give
Yeah.
yourself a break. We're
Yeah.
all human.
Now you're in San Francisco. There, I can see you in your little studio or room. So yeah,
Yes.
you've made the time to tap in. So as I say, you're very busy and travelling around. Thanks for your time. We can find you online, and it's been wonderful talking to you on Australia Overnight and on the video as well. So thank you so much here in our the Tell Your Story Media Studios. Thank you, Dr. Cindy McGovern.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great fun.